Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Facebook Live Fundraising Best Practices for Nonprofits. We're super pleased to have a terrific lineup of speakers, and we have a lot of great content for you. You can get the presentation for today's webinar sent directly to your phone right now. All you have to do is text FB Live, all one word. That's FB, B as in boy, live to 51555, and we'll send the presentation directly to your phone. A couple of housekeeping tips right before we get started here. You'll see on the left-hand side of your screen is a chat. You can chat questions directly to the presenters throughout today's presentation. We will be capturing as many of those questions as we can and saving them for the Q&A session we'll have at the end of today's webinar, about 15 minutes or so. So do please, don't hold back. Ask us as many questions as you have. A couple other things. If you have any audio issues during today's webinar, feel free to switch to dial in by phone. You can do so by choosing the More button in the upper right corner of your screen and switch to phone to get the credentials to dial in. The final reminder is we are recording today's webinar, so we will be sending out a link to your email so you can listen, watch, and share with a colleague today's webinar. We've got a great agenda today. We're going to be talking about, again, Facebook Live fundraising, best practices. We'll go through 12 tips for nonprofits to get started, best practices for connecting with donors, how to boost Facebook Live donations, and we'll have our Q&A session with our expert panel. So we've got three fantastic speakers today. John Hayden, who's a digital PR and fundraising expert, Michelle Whitehart, who's a video confidence mentor and coach, and our very own Jeremy Koenig. So first up, I'd like to introduce John Hayden. John is one of the most sought-after digital marketing experts for nonprofits and charities. He has helped hundreds of nonprofits achieve their best marketing and fundraising results. John is a trainer, coach, consultant, speaker, and author of Facebook Marketing for Dummies. Pleased to have John today. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I appreciate that. And so welcome, everybody. So I'm going to start off talking about 12 tips to get started with Facebook Live. Now, I work with a lot of nonprofits. In fact, that's most of the work that I do. And when I ask nonprofits, are using Facebook Live or not, many aren't. I think a lot of organizations are really hesitant. So these are steps that you can get your feet wet and get started and make your first broadcast really successful. Facebook Live is just very simple to use. You can actually use your iPhone or Android, so it's very, very simple. The technology isn't really the challenge here. It's really, being on live video, okay? So the first point, of course, is don't freak out. This is live broadcasting. When you hit go live, you are live. And as we all know from the YouTube videos of the newscast fails, right, that anything can really happen in a live broadcast. Of course, the tips I'm going to share will help you prepare, but just accept the fact that, there may be a mistake. Don't worry about it. You will live. You will survive. You're not going to die or anything like that, okay? The second tip is to get your feet wet with a small group. Now, if you're really nervous with this type of situation, or you're afraid to speak in front of people, or if you've never done any sort of webinar in the past or any sort of video presentation, get your feet wet with a small group. You could use your own personal Facebook profile and just invite a couple of friends and see how you look. And then that way you go through the process and you get feedback on how you've done your first Facebook Live video. Okay. Now, some organizations, of course, won't need to do this, and they could just jump right to step 3. Now, step 3 is going to be really important. You're going to pick a specific topic that people want to discuss. You're not going to talk about your 100-year anniversary because no one cares about that. You're not going to talk about your new board member or anything like that, or how great your organization is. You're going to talk about impact. You're going to bring supporters, volunteers, donors, and so forth to a place that they want to be, and that is where the impact is happening. So, for example, here, of course, we have the Dog Bless You is broadcasting a puppy cam. Okay, so they're essentially bringing their supporters to where the action is, and that's really the key point with Facebook Live. Step 4, tip number 4, don't reinvent the wheel. Don't say, hey, there's this new shiny tool that we can use on Facebook. Let's create a lot of extra work for all of our staff to create some really cool things just to use this tool. I wouldn't recommend that. Instead, pick an upcoming event or a happening, something that's happening. So, for example, I work with Make-A-Wish organizations, and they live broadcast their wish granting, right? So again, bringing the volunteers and donors to the place of impact. So again, don't reinvent the wheel. Just focus on something you're doing already and use your Facebook Live video to broadcast that event. Number 5, tell people when you're going live. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from an organization, they say, hey, we did Facebook Live, and I say, congratulations, how many people showed up? And they said, not that many. And I said, well, did you tell people about it? No. And so that's where the problem is, right? So make sure that you post an update on your Facebook page a week before, announcing the date and time, the topic, of course, right? And again, going back to the previous tip, we want to pick a topic that people really want to talk about, something that's highly specific and very useful. And also send an email to your email list. Don't forget that your email list is probably one of your greatest assets from a marketing standpoint. And so sending an email to these folks and getting them to attend your live broadcast, that's going to be really critical. These are your core supporters, I guess you could say. Of course, you could send SMS, you could tweet about it, you can post an update on your Facebook page immediately before. Some organizations I work with, they'll write a blog post giving a kind of a summary of what they're going to discuss and ask people to post their questions in the comments on that blog post, which then can be read during the live broadcast, right? So the point here is to basically give people a heads up. Number 6, make an outline for your broadcast. Don't just hit go live and then wing it. If you do that, you're basically saying, yes, I want to increase the likelihood that mistakes will happen. And our first tip is we want to kind of minimize that through planning. So introduce the topic. That's the first thing. Yourself, of course. Introduce yourself. Thank everyone for attending. Welcome people. Call people up by name at the beginning. Introduce the topic and, outline your interview questions. So you might have, say, 3 to 5 specific questions that you're really going to tackle during your Facebook Live broadcast. You want to have those in front of you. And at the end, towards the end of your broadcast, tell people what's next. If it's been a good broadcast and people have gotten a lot of value from it, they will want to know what is next. How can I get more? So, of course, you want to say, hey, don't forget about our upcoming fundraising event. It's on this date. You can go to this link and register ahead of time. Don't forget to, stay subscribed. Whatever your call to action is, make sure that you mention that at the end. And also, plan on responding to comments throughout the broadcast, obviously. Okay. Number 7, make sure that you have enough bandwidth. In other words, make sure that the signal that you have, be it Wi-Fi or wireless, is at least, in terms of like, wireless, you want to look for at least 4 bars because live video takes up a lot of bandwidth. So you want to make sure that you have that where you're broadcasting. I always recommend to people have a contingency carrier. So if you happen to be broadcasting, let's say you're a nature conservancy type of organization, and you're out in the woods going on a hike, giving people a tour firsthand of this beautiful land, you want to make sure that if you somehow drop out because you're not close to a tower, that someone else who has a different carrier, they can pick up the broadcast, or they can run the broadcast if you don't have the bandwidth or the bars at that specific location in the woods. Number 8, obviously you want to write a compelling description. Keep it short and sweet. You need maybe 5 to 8 words, and that's it. Just describe very specifically what the topic is. And again, you want to make the topic very specific. Don't take on a topic that's too broad. If it's too broad, break it down into subtopics and pick one of those subtopics for your broadcast. And you just simply want to describe that, and that's it. Now, after you're done with your broadcast, you can, of course, edit the title and so forth at that point. But it just initially, you want to write a quick, short, sweet title that gets people's attention. Number 9, you want to respond to commenters. Now, depending upon how you're doing this, you probably won't be able to respond by, texting and kind of written replies to people that are leaving comments. But what you're going to do is you're going to read their names and reply to each person. If you have a lot of comments, you can have a colleague watching the browser or somehow moderating comments and calling them out to you during the broadcast. But you want to call out people's names, read their question, and then respond to that question. All right? People love to be acknowledged, by the way. Call them up by name. They love it. Number 10, ask for followers. So while you're broadcasting, there is a follow button in the broadcast, and remind people, if you want to find out about future broadcasts, click the follow button and you'll be notified automatically. All right. Number 11, share the recording with supporters, right? So you've just spent a lot of time, a lot of effort creating a really great broadcast, and this is now published on your Facebook page. Immediately after, by the way, you want to download the recording to your mobile device, iPhone, Android, so that you can use that recording and repurpose it later on. But the other thing you do, as I say here, is to share the recording with supporters. So after, send a follow-up email. Repost the broadcast video maybe a couple of days later. Boost the broadcast video with Facebook ads. You've made this investment, make that investment go further. That's the point here. To repurpose the recording, again, when you record Facebook Live broadcast, you can save it to your phone, you can save it to your device, use that and slice it up a little bit. So you can actually take sections of it, depending upon video editing software. You can even use your iPhone. I mean, really, you can just go into your photo album, click on the video, and kind of edit it there, creating smaller snippets. So let's say that your topic that you cover, you're talking for about 20 minutes about a specific topic. And within that topic, there are 3 major questions that you're addressing. Each of those questions can then be repurposed as a separate video. So now we have a total of 4 videos, maybe even more. And also keep in mind that you can edit video for less than a minute is perfect for Instagram. So if you're an Instagram following, you can, think about that repurposed recording. Think about the minute or less segments that you're going to chop out and slice and dice out of that longer broadcast. So that's tip number 12. And I'm going to turn it back to Chris.
Terrific, John. Thank you so much for those great insights. Everyone, continue to keep your questions coming. Again, we're going to have a Q&A at the end of the webinar here where John will be able to answer all of these questions. Just real quick before we do move on to the next speaker, John, just one quick question. In all of this, I think it bears repeating your point about what are we presenting Facebook Live, right? You're not directly just asking over and over to give a donation. You said at the beginning, you're presenting impact, right? Is there just one thought you could add around, what is the, sort of the most important thing to kind of present in Facebook Live to really drive donations?
I would say impact, tell people what you're doing. So for example, Habitat for Humanity, if they're finishing up a house and they're putting on the final details with the volunteers, why not spend a half an hour going around and really saying thanks to all the volunteers, giving a quick tour of the house? So the point really is impact, and that actually does go a long way. In fact, I think it's probably the most important thing in terms of donations and also donor retention. Imagine existing donors see this video and they get this live tour of the house that they've already been supporting through many donations. I guarantee you they're going to say, I need to keep supporting this organization. These guys are so smart, and it's making a difference in a way that I believe in.
Right. And it seems like that's really the value of this live video is it brings people there to where the impact is happening, right? And
exactly.
Emotionally with that action, right? Well,
Yeah,
great.
It's really unusual. I mean, really, for the first time, we can bring people anywhere. We can give people access to a giraffe. There's a zoo around the Boston area, and there's a pregnant giraffe. So there's a giraffe cam. And one day, of course, the giraffe is going to have a baby, and it's going to be live broadcast for everyone to see.
Right. And one final question, how often do you think people should be using Facebook Live? Is there any, recipe for best practices around frequency?
Yeah, so frequency, I would say consistency, because my concern always with most nonprofits is limited resources. So start off with maybe a weekly broadcast, picking maybe a regular theme, and then proceed from there. And the great thing about Facebook Live is that you will notice that is the most viewed video that you'll publish on your Facebook page. It has tremendous amounts of reach, tremendous amounts of video views right out of the box. And so the longer actually that you can broadcast each session, the better. Obviously, you don't want to broadcast for 24 hours because, it's going to be boring. But as long as you have something really useful to talk about, I recommend broadcasting for at least 15 minutes.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John. And I think our next speaker, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, will have some great tips on how to get comfortable and how to feel confident in being on and appearing in these videos. So I'd like to introduce Michelle White-Hart, who specializes in training conscious social entrepreneurs to harness the power of video and dive into making authentic videos that inspire participation for important causes. Welcome, Michelle. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Chris. I'm so glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about how to be a fantastic connector, and what does it mean connection is the new currency?
Great question. Connection is the new currency has to do with when you are fully being yourself, like you're basically in connection with yourself, that transmits to your audience and they feel connected to by you, so that you're not just giving a bunch of information and, coming from your head. You're actually coming from your heart, your whole body. It's like, I am a living human and I am making myself open and relatable. I'm not just telling you a bunch of information and trying to, educate you or push you to do anything. I'm sharing myself and whatever I'm talking about.
Yeah. So how do you think, how do you get people to feel comfortable, right? And I'm sure a lot of those that are listening and attending the webinar today might be going, oh boy, how am I, I just thought I was, great at driving engagement and awareness for my nonprofit, and now I have to be a video spokesperson, or how do I do that?
Exactly. And it is a leap, I have to say, even for myself, when I had a filmmaking background and then here I was going to teach people to make videos. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do it now too. And so the whole thing is that the more that you feel like you're feeling yourself, like even if you're nervous, feel your nervousness. It's okay. So already we're going to feel the real you just by you being real with yourself. Not that you have to say, oh, I'm so nervous, blah, blah, blah. But first you just get to be okay with however you're feeling in the moment. Like if you're nervous, that's okay. You can still make a video. And the next thing is to feel, when I say feel the nervousness, I mean feel it in your body, feel your feet on the ground. Like feel your connection to the earth so that you're like not trying to worry about what other people are thinking, but you're actually in connection with yourself, and that it's okay to be seen imperfectly. We're not all going to be perfect on video, and there's a learning curve, and it's okay to be imperfect in the beginning, and just know that you'll always have some imperfections. Like John was saying, it's okay to make mistakes. And it's like when you're talking to a person, you're not perfect. You stumble on your words sometimes. It's just being really accepting with your humanity, really. We're not expecting a perfect movie star performance at all. And in fact, the most important thing you should know is that your imperfections actually make you more endearing to your audience. People are more interested in listening because they actually feel like it's a real person like them. and not some faraway perfect person who doesn't have any connection to humanity. So those are sort of the main things to keep remembering, is that it's okay to just let it flow. And especially on Facebook Live, it's okay to let it flow. Imperfections are good. There's way more casualness on Facebook Live, and I find it's a much easier medium for people to get comfortable on video.
And now in terms of like charitable events, how do you then, get comfortable? Again, I guess there you may be speaking at the event. What kind of recommendations do you have in terms of best practices for live streaming at fundraising events?
Well, at fundraising events, I mean, what I really think is fun is to have a sense of this is an adventure, and we're just going to spontaneously talk to different people and find out what they're excited about the event. So you want to capture, you want to be in a place of excitement about the event, and you want to sort of lead whoever you interview live at the event. And it's fun to interview different people, donors, people who are at the event themselves, who are excited about the cause, and just ask them, what are you excited about this event, and why are you here? And just if you convey your excitement, people are going to share theirs. And that's what has the greatest impact, I think, for people watching, is we're really excited about what we're doing here. And that passion and excitement about what you're doing is why they're donating. And so you're just building the excitement by sharing and asking different people. And it doesn't have to be all professional here. It's more casual, but it's being led by the excitement.
And now how about capturing these behind the scenes footage? And I guess, a couple of questions. Do you think it's a good idea to kind of maybe pre-identify some folks, that are at the event that are probably going to be better at being interviewed than others? And, what other thoughts do you have around that?
You're right. I think that's actually really good in the beginning when you're, getting started as the one who is interviewing these different people, is to have, that's a great idea, to have, so that they know that they're going to be talking and they're going to be comfortable talking. But later, when you're more comfortable doing this, it's okay if people are not necessarily that comfortable. If they agree to be seen on video, it's okay for them to not be, again, perfect at speaking on video. And the thing is you want to have fun and be spontaneous as well. So if you're comfortable with people not being all posh and perfect at it, and they're coming and you're getting them excited about why they're here, that is going to override. And I know that, there's two kinds of Facebook Lives in a sense. There's the ones that have much more of a content message behind it that needs to be hit on, and the points are, you want to make sure you're delivering certain kind of content. This kind of thing that I'm talking about here with behind the scenes can be more on the human, spontaneous side, where we're actually getting a sneak peek that normally we wouldn't get to have. It's not all polished. It's like, in the tabloids, everyone's so intrigued about, what the stars do when they're grocery shopping. It seems so mundane, but we're all curious about the human side of these people. And it's the same at the fundraising event, and working at a nonprofit. We have this, they all have a message that they want to get across, and Facebook Live allows for this human side to be seen, where you're not necessarily capturing specific content, but you're capturing energy, you're capturing passion for the cause or the event, and that is invaluable. And it's just a different angle, and it adds more variety to the kinds of videos and Facebook Lives you're presenting, so people can get a sense of getting a sneak peek behind the scenes that isn't all perfect. And Yeah,
and I think that you got some great ideas here, of course, for all sorts of ways that you can give people a sneak peek and let them feel connected with what's really going on. So obviously this is just the tip of the iceberg for the kinds of things that you can do, right?
Exactly. I mean, and as you do them, like, for example, as it says over here, like streaming the rehearsal, the setup, the teardown, it's like people, might think that that's boring, but it's kind of exciting to see before an event and the after event and how people are feeling about the event before and after, and testimonials from donors, spontaneous testimonials. Just, they haven't planned this. It's sort of like they're just going to share why they're so excited about why they donate to this event or to this nonprofit, and then streaming the after party and all of that. It's like we didn't get to go to the event, so we're getting a chance to actually be at the event and see behind the scenes things that a lot of people wouldn't even see even if they're at the event.
Right. Fantastic. And so now how about empowering members of the staff? Like who should be chosen to be the Facebook Live producer?
Great question. Well, I think in the beginning, it's really good to go with someone who likes to ask questions and who's curious about people and who likes to engage with people. And it doesn't have to necessarily be an extrovert. I'm an introvert, actually. I've become more socially sort of looking like an extrovert, but someone who likes to connect people and promote and has that energy of, I want to share what we do at this nonprofit with the world. And I want them to see all the different cool things about what we do. So someone like that who feels comfortable engaging with the donors or even staff members. It doesn't have to be just at a nonprofit event. I think it's really fun. I'd love to see, a sneak peek of The Office and, preparing for an event or preparing for a big press release or an unveiling, like what goes on at the office for even a shorter little sneak peek, could be 5 minutes, just little tastes of the energy of the people who work at the nonprofit. So someone who feels comfortable, who likes talking to everyone at the office and loves to engage with people, I think that would be a great choice.
Terrific tips. So again, everyone, continue to drop your questions into the chat. We will get to as many of them as we can during the Q&A. So also, again, just a quick reminder, we are recording this webinar. So if you've missed anything, you'd like to review anything that Michelle or John have added today, you'll get the recording via email sent to you. So a couple questions here. One quick question, Michelle. Like, what do you think? How do you best empower supporters who can't attend your in-person event to join Facebook Live?
Well, you can be posting on Facebook, letting them know that they can join live and what they're going to be privileged to see that maybe even some of the attendees might not get to see, making it special that though they're not at the event, they're actually going to get some experience of the event that even the attendees might not capture because of where they are when the Facebook Live is happening.
Right. And so do you think it's probably bears repeating that it's like, every cause essentially can now create a culture of worldwide participation at literally any charitable event from anywhere? Is that right?
That is totally right. I mean, it's like it's like expanding your audience instantaneously, that they can actually participate in a fundraising event that they didn't have to spend a lot of money to attend. They get to be a part of it and be a part of the energy, and then engaging them, asking them to comment and share their voice about the cause.
And for those, nonprofits, and probably most nonprofits now really need to be thinking about how to connect with millennials. Is this important? I mean, have you seen this to be an important factor in connecting with millennials?
Absolutely. Millennials really love this style of raw, unpolished, authentic kind of presentation, because sometimes I think we're so hung up about trying to present a really polished image to be taken seriously, but the millennials don't care about that. They're like, I want to hear the passion. I want to hear what you guys are doing. And Facebook Live is a great way to reach them and to get them involved.
Yeah, and do you think that's kind of why they like live, sort of unscripted, raw? You know, you think it's because people sort of have this maybe suspicion around things that are too perfectly produced. You know, I think they feel they need some trust and connection with what's real. Do you think that's what works?
Exactly. And the connection is the new currency, is exactly what they're tapped into. They want to feel the connection, the realness, the authentic drive to, you know, whatever the nonprofit believes in. That's what they want to feel. They don't want to fall into the whole image or even the money or all these other things. They really want to feel people's true passion to why they're involved in the nonprofit and what the nonprofit is doing. And that live, uncut Facebook Live energy is exactly what is authentic to them. That's what they can relate to. Real people talking about this stuff.
Fantastic. Well, great stuff. Again, everyone can continue to submit your questions. We will get to as many of them as we can during the Q&A. Michelle, thank you so much for that insight. We'll get to a bunch of questions to Michelle and to John as they've been coming in during our Q&A. Next up, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Jeremy Koenig, who's the creative director and product architect of MobileCause, who's going to talk to us about how to boost donations on Facebook Live using mobile solutions. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Michelle and John. Wow, I am ready to do a Facebook Live for my favorite charity right now. I'm so excited to talk to you guys this afternoon because I truly believe that Facebook Live is going to change the game in terms of fundraising and your ability to reach a world of donors that otherwise would be unreachable. That being said, I'd love to start this time off by talking about a best practice case study that happened last year that it has set the bar for best practices in terms of Facebook Live and raising donations. So far in this webinar, we've been talking about all the ways to pull off an effective Facebook Live campaign, and now I'm going to talk very specifically about the step-by-step instructions for collecting donations and collecting maximum donations during your broadcasts to gain the most amount of donors, the most amount of donations. So a little context for Mr. Steve Harvey's campaign. In his brilliance, he wanted to get in shape, and so he decided that he was going to have the Steve Harvey Ride for Charity, in which he was going to ride on a exercise bike, an elliptical machine, and run on a treadmill for 4 hours a day and stream it. And throughout that whole time, he was going to talk about his foundation, the Stephen Marjorie Harvey Foundation, in which they provide programs for kids, specifically young men and young women. He talked about how he had been making this mission go forward with his own money, but he needs our help, and any amount matters. And so with that, I'm actually going to play the YouTube video. You'll hear from Steve himself exactly what he did, and check it out. It's pretty amazing.
Kenyatta Massey, 15 from J.D. Lane, $100 from Leanne Johnson, $3 from Isaac Gordon. Appreciate that 3, man. Everything helps. $25 from Latrice Brown, $10 from Tamika Landers, $5 from Yolanda Wooden. Yeah, you said that, I got it. Yeah, appreciate y'all. If you want to text to give while I'm working out, a complete workout, 4 hours every day. I'm a bike ride, I'm a treadmill, I'm an elliptic machine, every day for 4 hours, trying to get awareness and raise money so I can change more boys and girls' lives, man. That's all it's about with me. God been good to me. I'm just trying to give it back. So I add a little bit more on my plate. Let's go, y'all. All you gotta do is text. Hit your text icon and text in 91999. hit you like you finna text somebody, hit the text icon and text in where it says 2, type in 91999. Then in the message block, type in Steve and hit send, and it'll tell you what you do. It's real safe. We appreciate the giving, man. I'm gonna ride this thing till I raise $2 million. I'm gonna ride this thing, man, till I raise $2 million. That's what I'm gonna do. I may have to do an extra week. I think I'm gonna stay on here till I get $2 million. I might do it like that. Just do it until I get $2 million. How about that? I'm gonna bring some friends in. Hey, Kevin Hart. Somebody hit Kevin Hart up on Periscope, Facebook, Twitter. Tell Kevin Hart to give me a hand with his friends over there at Nike.
So let me explain exactly what was happening. So Steve and his team, they figured out that they're going to use modern mobile solutions to capture and create an interactive experience on Facebook Live. So let me I'm literally going to go through the schematics of everything that they did. And so you can see here on the screen, he had his audience text Steve to 91999. And actually what that does, if you're not familiar with text to keywords, is that actually triggers a reply message. In this case, it said, "Thanks for your pledge to Steve Harvey's charity ride. Complete your gift here." And if they click that link, then they receive, it opens up in their browser this mobile-friendly donation page, which he branded for his campaign, so much so to reinforce his giving only $1 if you can, recurring donation options, and then he had this great button, "Let's Ride." A couple of things if you don't know about text to keywords. If anybody texts one of your keywords, what they're actually doing is they're triggering that reply message, as I mentioned before, but they're also subscribing to receive ongoing text messages from your organization. What's amazing about text is they have a 98% open rate, so they are very much different than other forms of communication, and we're going to talk more about that in a couple of slides here. Here's a little pro tip for you that we actually figured out yesterday when we were analyzing some of his campaign totals. So the average donation amount was $23 from, you'll see here in a second, from more than 42,000 donors. And what's interesting is what we see again and again is your average gift size typically is going to be really close to whatever your second suggested donation amount is. So in this case, you can see it was 25. And so if you think about this campaign in terms of its scale, more than 40,000 donors, if that number would have been bumped up to 35, maybe 45, maybe 50, you actually see your average gift size go up, and the frequency of people giving actually doesn't go down. And so we highly recommend that mid-campaign, you begin to tweak those suggested donation amount levels to increase average gift sizes. When someone texts a keyword and they don't click the link to fulfill their pledge, what actually happens is they are automatically enrolled to receive 3 text message reminders. So on day 1, and again, these are people that texted Steve but did not click the link and fulfill their donation. They receive this first message that says, "Thank you so much for initiating your gift yesterday. Give now." Day 3, they receive another message that says, "We're so grateful for your support. Give now." And day 8, they receive a third and final text message that says, "We notice you haven't finished your gift. Give now." What's amazing as we have continued at MobileCause, as we have continued to perfect this algorithm of reminder messages, that it actually the MobileCause average is 84% in terms of people who text the keyword and complete a donation. Steve Harvey's campaign actually was 86%. Some organizations take pledge fulfillment even to the next level by calling phone numbers of people who initiated a pledge by texting a keyword, but never completed the donation after day 8. This is a really, really important component that a lot of nonprofits get wrong. So whenever you do a digital fundraising campaign, in this case specifically Facebook Live, for your information, Steve also streamed his broadcast on his website and used Periscope all at the same time. If you tell people to text a keyword to give, 1/3 of those people, no matter what you do, no matter what you tell them, will go to your website and click the donate button on your homepage and donate there. And so if you want those donations to be specifically captured in your campaign, it's really important that when people click that donate button, that they actually go to the same they go to the same donation page and or a donation page that's associated with your campaign that can be totaled on the thermometer with all your totals. So that's exactly what Steve did. Sure enough, approximately 1/3 of all the donations that came in his campaign were people that went to his website directly and clicked the donate button. One other thing I will mention here that I can't emphasize enough how important it is on your website to have a one-click donation experience. So people click donate, they're immediately taken to a mobile-friendly donation form. Half of all internet traffic is on a smartphone, where they can give with just a few taps or clicks from any device. All right, now let's talk about the thermometer. When you were watching that video, you saw Steve shouting out names. $15 from J.D. Lania, $100 from Leanne Johnson, $3 from Isaac Gordon. Couldn't do it without you, Isaac. Latrice Brown, that $25 is going to go so far. What he was actually reading was he was reading his thermometer. And so Mobile Cause provides this incredible technology where you can take all your different donation forms associated with your campaign, whether they be on your Facebook page or on your website, or if they're what links to in your text message reply, and the totals and the donor names and the donor count and the donation amounts all show up in real time. And so you can literally be receiving donations from all over the world, and they'll instantaneously appear on the thermometer. And he literally just had a tablet on his easel on his treadmill, and he was literally just reading the names, reading the days, 4 hours a day while he exercised until he reached his $1 million goal. And as you can see here, he ended up having 43,990 donors. He raised $1,013,102. A couple of things that you may or may not know about a thermometer that are really important is the Mobile Cause thermometer. It's just essentially a web URL. So Steve could literally have had that web URL open on his smartphone, and he could have been reading it right off his smartphone. He could have had it linked to his website so people can see it. He could have linked to it from social media so people can see it. The traditional form of using this is at your dinner galas and your luncheons, where you would put the thermometer up on screen, and as people make donations, their names appear live. So in this case, if you were streaming your spring gala, for example, not only would people that make donations at the event names show up, name and amounts, but also people who make donations worldwide digitally that are watching your live stream on Facebook Live. Additionally, no matter what campaign you do, you're going to have people that are going to mail you checks and give you cash and give you coins. And what's really cool about Mobile Cause is inside of your account, you can actually enter in those donations, and they will appear on the thermometer as well. I want to take a minute to talk about text messaging. John and Michelle both referenced how important it is to just the importance of promoting your Facebook Live broadcast. For all of you that gave me your mobile number, I actually sent you 2 reminder text messages before this webinar, one 30 minutes before, one 5 minutes before. We've been doing this now for about a year and a half and testing, what's the difference in participation on our webinars when we do that. And consistently, we see a 50% increase in participation in digital broadcasts when we send a text message. And the reason for this is because 90% of text messages are read in 3 minutes. And so it's essentially real-time communication straight to the lock screen of a person's phone that's vibrating or ringing in their pocket. So text messaging is a really, really great way to drive Facebook Live participation. And again, anyone who texts any of your keywords is automatically subscribed to receive messages. And then additionally, as a nonprofit, you can you have the special permission to upload your list of donors to just send text messages to invite people to your future campaigns. Some of you I'm sure have concerns about text messaging, I have here a little did you know tip. Text messaging is actually preferred by donors if they understand what it is. All people have to do to, for example, in this case, to stop receiving messages from Steve Harvey would be text stop. And if they ever wanted to get back on Steve's list, all they would have to do is text one of his keywords and they'd be resubscribed. So it's a very clean and convenient subscribe, unsubscribe method. Okay, this is your aha moment. If you haven't had it yet, I'm hoping to lead you there now. We don't usually do this on webinars, but in this case, I'm just going to come out and say, this is why your nonprofit needs a mobile cause account today. So if, for example, the Harvey Foundation would have not used the text to donate keyword in a fundraising thermometer, aka they wouldn't have had the text Steve function to their call to action, and Steve wouldn't have been able to read donations off in real time, according to our estimations, they would have conservatively only raised $500,000, which means that essentially half the money they raised they would not have collected, and more than 21,000 people, according to our estimations, would not have been able to make a donation. So if you're planning on doing Facebook Live, if you're planning on bringing your fundraising strategy into the new digital world, it's so important that you get a keyword, that you get mobile-friendly donation pages, and that you start to use a thermometer to recognize donors in real time as they complete gifts, as well as communicate them with SMS messages that are read within 3 minutes. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris, and we're going to jump into Q&A, and I think we have a poll here.
Awesome, Jeremy. And again, thanks everyone for participating today. We've got a ton of questions. We will get to as many of them as we can. And I know there have been a lot of questions also specifically about some of the, text to give and some of the things Jeremy was talking about. Of course, mobile causes, that's exactly what we do. So of course, I would encourage all of you after this webinar to go to Mobile Cause, check it out. Learn more. We've got a fantastic customer success team that is exactly what they do is help all of you succeed in accomplishing your goals and figuring out what technology is the right fit for you. But real quick, I want to just show a poll, as Jeremy had mentioned, just so we can get a little insight from all of you that I think would be interesting. So you'll see the poll on your screen there. Go ahead and take a look. But now that you know how Facebook Live works, what do you plan on broadcasting? Great. Give you all a moment to keep voting. So thanks everybody for participating. In the meantime, we have our speakers with us. John, I'm going to tee up some questions for you. So thanks for sticking with us here. So it's interesting, right? Terrific. Yeah, so live events is what looks like most of you are doing, and fundraising campaigns, followed by testimonials from program recipients. Great stuff, everyone. Thank you for participating in that. Terrific. So I'm going to toss a question over to Michelle. A couple of questions here for you. In terms of what are your thoughts around, sensitivities around some people that they're concerned about how professional this video needs to be. There are a number of questions about people asking about tripods and, switching right from the front to back. And what are your thoughts on how professional does this need to be?
Well, I think, it also depends on your brand, because I think some brands of certain nonprofits, they just want to have a certain professionalism, but I really think that there is room for a much more casual part of the brand, so to speak, where, nowadays there's so much behind the scenes going on in the news, and it's really going for the fun and passion and commitment and drive that is going to override the so-called seeming unprofessionalism. Like, there's so much. I mean, you saw Steve Harvey's video. It's so casual, but it's Steve Harvey. So you're captivated by his energy. But he's like, there's not a whole lot of professionalism going on in terms of how it looks, what he's even wearing, how he's talking. You know what I mean? There's so much room for just being him, which is so much more interesting than him trying to look professional and have everything, all his T's dotted and I's. You know what I mean? There's a lot of play with what you can get away with Facebook Live. The audience is naturally more forgiving.
Right, absolutely. And so back to you, John. There are a bunch of questions about length of video and how you got to sort of the 15 minutes, and other people had, well, what if my live event is 3 hours? Do I stream the whole thing? So just general thoughts on length and how best to determine that.
Yeah, so I think length is going to be determined by what the plan is, right? So you have to decide, first of all, what are we going to do for a video, and then come up with a very specific idea that's highly valuable to supporters, right? Either it's something that's educational, or you're showing them behind the scenes and so forth. And then once you create almost like an outline of that presentation, you'll get a good sense of how long it's going to be. For example, if you're a petting zoo, and you want to welcome the new pony, there's a new pony arriving, and we're going to see the pony interact with all the other animals in real time as it's happening. We're bringing you to the impact. That might only last, 5 minutes. We might want to also think about, well, in addition to that 5 minutes, is there somebody that we can interview about this horse, and they can really tell us what this horse's story is, right? So in other words, and I do think if you broadcast for I know you mentioned 15 minutes, and I mentioned 15 minutes, but for me personally, honestly, I picked that number. The longer you broadcast, the better, okay? At the same time, it has to be valuable. You just can't sit there and just let the video run. You have to really present value. Now, I would say, me personally, beyond anything more than an hour, I mean, really, it's really tough for the Facebook Live video. At the same time, doing a 1-minute video isn't going to get you the reach that, say, a 15-minute broadcast would get you, right? Because the longer you broadcast, the more exposure this video is getting in the newsfeed as people comment, right? So right at the beginning of Facebook Live, your broadcast, you should be engaging the audience right away. Thank you so much for coming here. Mary's here, Jimmy's here. What organizations are you from? Really kind of getting their input to begin with. That way, when they do that, guess who finds out about it? Their friends on Facebook see, oh, Jeremy's at it again doing this live video thing, or this is trending or something like that. Not all of his friends, but, a few. And that's really how it spreads. So the key is you have to pick the length of time where you can engage people in a meaningful way, and that's it.
Right. And, somebody had a question sort of about your tip number 6, which sort of outline your questions. And, maybe that's related to ultimately, do you recommend that everyone sort of start out with sort of an objective, like, well, what's the impact that we want to communicate here? Right. Is that, how do you suggest people sort of prepare that and think through that and get clear, and then just ultimately have just an outline in order to best structure presenting that impact?
Yeah, I think here's the way to look at it. It's important, first of all, to start with a topic that people want to talk about. However, if it's too broad, like people want to talk about global warming, that's a little too broad, right? So we need to break it down and pick a topic that's very specific, but also useful, valuable, and current, right? So there might be a Facebook Live video on the new kind of legislation that is being looked at that's actually going to really hurt global warming. And here's what you can do. This Facebook Live video is going to be all about what you can do locally with your representatives. This is just an example. So the more specific that is, the easier the outline is, right? Okay, great. So we're going to talk about global warming and what's at stake right now. That's our first point. What's at stake? Why does it matter? And what can we do? That's the outline, essentially. And then the what we can do part is really critical because, remember, one of my recommendations is tell people what's next, okay? You have to engage the listeners and the viewers in a story is where they want to take action. Wow, that horse, that's really cool. I love that horse. They just showed the horse meeting all the cool farm animals. I want to do something. I'm moved. Tell me what to do. If you want to get more videos like this, join our email list, or, like our Facebook page, or do whatever that next step is. That should always be clear. So that's really the outline.
Yeah.
Talk about something that matters, keep it brief, but valuable. And then tell, make sure you always tell people what's next.
Right.
Not at the end, all throughout.
Right. And I think that for everyone, that is fantastic set of insight right there. That's how to structure each of your Facebook Lives, right? And so now here, quick question. Again, we're going to go over a couple of minutes here, everyone, because we do have a lot of questions. So we'll get to as many as we can here. So if everyone wants to stick around, that'd be great. Again, we are recording the webinar, so we'll send out the full recording to any of you that have to jump. But Michelle, back to you real quick. Somebody texted or sent in earlier on when we were looking at the slide with the beautiful people in our presentation, was said, well, look, what if I'm not one of those beautiful people? How do we, best represent ourselves? And does that matter?
I personally don't think it matters, because I really think that your passion is way more beautiful than your outer beauty. Your passion is what your donors care most about, and the impact that you're providing. So I really feel like it's your heart and connection to your cause that is far more engaging than looking beautiful.
Great point. And I think that cannot be underscored. And would you say that people should just get comfortable and try this out, right? And it's like,
definitely.
It's something. How do you get started? Do you suggest they just kind of get started small and practice?
Absolutely. What I think, like, the very first step, if there's a lot of fear around being seen on video, to first just make videos that you watch yourself, like just talking to the camera on your phone and getting comfortable. And then there's also FaceTiming friends. If you get comfortable FaceTiming, that's another way of getting more comfortable. And doing Facebook Lives that are private, where you only invite a few people, so you get used to the whole technology first, so you feel like you've got some experience. Or you can practice on Periscope. I know you can do private Periscopes, and then eventually start doing it, just diving in. Some people will dive in. Some people will want to take baby steps along the way. Got to listen to your rhythm of how you feel comfortable doing this, because it does bring up various different gremlins and fears for different people. It's very unique to each person how comfortable they are going to be using this technology. Some people are more comfortable making a video in private and then publishing. Some people would rather be casual and spontaneous and just dive in, and you do a Facebook Live where there's no pressure for it to look perfect. So there's a lot of different ways to find your way to start getting more comfortable.
Yeah, right. Terrific. Now, this is a question for Jeremy. Again, I think it just so everyone can be super clear about Mobile Cause's role. How do the nonprofits, actually get the money that they raise? Like, how does that work? How long does it take? What happens there?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually really important that when you're considering fundraising, different fundraising softwares and providers, that money gets direct deposited into your bank account. So that's exactly how it works with Mobile Cause. Steve Harvey Foundation collects that money. As it clears credit cards, it immediately gets direct deposited in their bank account. A couple other things that you want to pay attention to that are really important. The credit card statement and the bank statement says donation to the Steve Harvey Foundation. You want to make sure that it just doesn't say donation to PayPal or donation to some other software. This is especially important for recurring donations, because people will look at their statements and go, where's this payment going? One other thing that I see in a question here that's actually really important and that makes MobileCause very different from our competitors is that we don't charge transaction fees, and so we don't charge transaction fees. We make no money off the donations that you collect. We're very intentional about that. We want you to get all the money, as much of the money as you can, for every donation that you collect.
Fantastic. And again, just to remind everyone, like the fees, like it's in terms of like what's MobileCause's role in terms of fees and that type of thing, it's super low, right?
Yeah, again, MobileCause doesn't charge a transaction fee. We have a flat credit card processing fee of 2.5%, which is the lowest in the industry. That includes Amex. And then we actually just released a new function, which some of our top performing customers are using, where you can actually have a box on your donation form that says and defaults to, I would like to pay the credit card processing fee. And then that credit card processing fee is essentially added to the donation. So it's a great way for nonprofits to receive even more money from donors.
Fantastic. And again, I'd encourage everyone to reach out to MobileCause, talk to our customer success team, have us help you specifically accomplish your goals. Let us talk to you, figure out a plan, and we'll help you figure out the right set of technology and the right set of features in the MobileCause platform to help you to do that. Real quick, back to John, there've been some questions about whether we need to be in the video, like do I need to have a reporter? And just in terms of, who's on the video, certainly I think as you get brought up some examples, it's certainly quite compelling to produce impactful content, which is, where we are not the subjects, right? That's really the goal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. At the same time, you want to, obviously, like your nonprofit is not the protagonist, and whoever's running the video is not the main character, right? But following an outline, right? You want to have someone look into the video and at least introduce the topic. Hey, welcome to, so-and-so Animal Farm. Today we're welcoming a horse who has been blah, 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 and start to tell the story and then flip the camera around. You can actually spin Facebook around with the button. There's like a little button that flips the camera, and then just start filming and maybe just make comments a few times while you're filming, and then interview someone after that, like I said before in that example. So you will have to have someone definitely looking in the camera. And one tip that a lot of people miss is that they hit go live, and then they figure out, they get themselves all set, and then they straighten out their glasses. As soon as you hit go live, you are live. So you want to hit go live. It says 3, 2, 1. As soon as it hits, after 1, you just start talking. You're on. It's go time.
Fantastic. And now, so back to you, Michelle, in terms of, commenters and handling comments, do you have any thoughts around, again, maybe if someone's not comfortable, how do you handle comments? And is this something that you think people should practice? Are people getting distracted by comments? How do you handle dealing with that?
That is definitely something that can be challenging in the beginning, and it can be to someone's advantage in the sense that comments provide, someone's interested in something and they're asking a question, so you can respond right away. So for some people, they'll appreciate, I like having people interject because it adds aliveness. But then if you're the kind of person who wants to say a bunch of stuff that you've got in your mind, which is good because you want to offer some amazing tips, then it's like you really have to find your way and just say, hey, you guys, thanks so much for the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as I'm done with sharing my content, and I'll answer some questions. So please save them and comment at the end. So you can interact with the fact that there are comments and that you're not commenting on them right away, or if you like the comments, you want to respond in the moment, then just use them and respond in the moment. So you have a lot of flexibility in how you deal with the comments, but acknowledging that there are comments is a really good thing, and say, hey, I really love that you're interacting with me, and I really want to get you this content first before I answer your questions.
Right. Fantastic. Well, we're almost out of time, so I just would love to give you one last thought, Michelle. What would you like to leave us all with? If you're what would be your final takeaway based on everything we talked through today that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think what I'd like to leave the audience with is that your presence and your contribution when you are doing these Facebook Lives is really important. Your human connection doesn't matter what you look like, how much expertise you have, how much technology experience you have. Your presence makes a difference, and your heart and connection to your cause makes a difference. And to really trust that you are offering value just by being present on the video. Doesn't even matter what you say. The fact that you're wanting to show up and share means a lot. And for you to really just keep valuing that your presence is reaching people who want to know more about your organization and the impact that you're having. So I just really encourage people to make that leap and to go for it, because this is the new way, and it's becoming a new life skill, and it's important to get comfortable in one form or another using video, and you get to choose how you do it, in the sense of how professional or how casual or how quickly. It's everyone has the opportunity to use this technology for a really big impact.
Fantastic, Michelle. And if you could, we'd love to please have you drop in your contact info into the chat. So if everyone would like to get a hold of you and, get more insight from Michelle, great. So now to you, John, back to, same question, based on everything kind of we talked about today, some of the questions you've seen, what do you recommend? What's your sort of final thought you'd like to leave us with today?
I would say don't reinvent the wheel. Right. So Facebook Live is this new shiny thing that we're all excited about right now. And so, but don't give yourself extra work. Instead, find something existing already, like an existing event or existing moment that's already happening that you can layer Facebook Live on top of to enhance that as a communication tool and kind of do everything that we did. But in terms of implementing it, start with the most amazing events or the most amazing moments that are already happening. Don't create something new for everybody to get too busy with.
Terrific. And again, John has so much more insight to give. Again, John, want to drop your contact info anyways that people can reach out, get more info, more insights, and connect with you. Feel free to drop that into the chat. So if everyone would like to get more info from John, please feel free to go to johnhaydon, HAYDON.com. And there's a lot of resources there. So again, thanks to everyone for participating. Just as a quick reminder, I encourage all of you to go to Mobile Cause. We provide all-in-one mobile and online software for a new generation of fundraising. So you can speak to an expert directly. You can just call us at 888-661-8804, or you can go to mobilecause.com/free-consultation. There are a whole ton of resources also on our website, previous webinars on a whole ton of fundraising topics and best practices. We have infographics. So feel free to visit us at mobilecause.com/resources, where you can get all of that great stuff. Please do look out for our next upcoming webinars, and we look forward to seeing all of you again. Have a great day, everyone.